can the Vols make the playoffs in 2025? Um, I think we all want to know that question, man, because under Heupel, we have been insanely competitive, right? Got to the playoffs in 2024, and we would have made the playoffs in 2022 if the format was different. So first off, do you think it's possible that the Vols can make the playoffs in 2025? Like, do you think that's in the realm of possibilities? And if so, how do we do it, Dakota?
I definitely think it's within the realm of possibilities, but it's going to require Heupel to do something that a lot of people in chat have pointed out are things he has not done. And that is win on the road in big games, not just beating Kentucky and Vanderbilt on the road, but winning big games on the road and specifically not losing one out of nowhere. Because, like you and I both, when we talked before last season, because of the history of what Heupel had done, we circled that Arkansas game and was like, don't be surprised, guys, if we lose this. Like that is the type of game Heupel has shown consistently that he lost, and him doing it again does not bode well for this season, because now it's like the season is much tougher to make the playoffs than last year, just because of who we get at home and who we get on the road. Because losing to Georgia on the road was kind of the one game last year where we were like, that's probably happening, right? But now, with our lack of ability to win on the road, specifically at Bryant Denny and in the swamp, those are two big games that if you just assumed we lost, there's your two, right? You can go 10-2 is probably going to get you into the playoff every year as an SEC team. So that's really the mark you want to hit. But if we lose those both those games, that means you can't choke on the road anywhere. And then you have to beat Georgia, which you also haven't done in 8 years. So I would say it's definitely possible, but it is a lot tougher with the way our schedule works right now, and it should kind of change pretty drastically next year with this kind of cycle ending. But with the home and road games we had, this season is going to be an uphill battle compared to last year's.
You make a ton of really good points. The schedule in particular, like every other year, we just have so much harder schedule, like to your point, Dakota, because you play Bama and Florida on the road, which have been very winnable games for us since Heupel has got here. We've been competitive with those teams since Heupel has got there, or got to Tennessee, has took the job here. We haven't with Georgia. We just have to be honest with that. We haven't been able to get over that hump because how talented Georgia has been under Kirby Smart. So really, it's like it doesn't really matter if we play them at home or not because we typically lose that game. Now, I think if there is a year, it could be this year. Now, it's going to be
Yeah.
tough with the QB question marks. We still have a lot of question marks about this team, kind of how the chat was mentioning earlier. But if you can, again, do one thing that we haven't in a very long time, which is beat Georgia or win on the road against Bama or Florida, which again, we have not done since 2003, and we have not beat Georgia since 2016. If you can do one of those things and then take care of everything else, the everything else games is what I'll call it. That's 9 games. Now, I will say one game, the chat's mentioning a couple of games to watch out in that 9 game stretch, but the one game I'll mention is Oklahoma. Oklahoma could be a really good or a really improved roster this year. So that's not a gimme, but it's a game that will be favored in. So the 9 games we're favored in, if you can go 9-0 in those games and then just beat one of Alabama, Florida, or Georgia, which again, it's a big hump because we haven't done those things on the road or haven't beat Georgia in a very long time, then you're going to make the playoffs. If you go 10-2 in the SEC, you will make the playoffs. But kind of like the chat's pointing out here, and we're all kind of having this discussion together, Heupel hasn't been able to take care of those 9 quote gimme games, which is the SEC. It's never gimme games, but there's always been a year, like not to bring up bad memories, but Arkansas last year. Arkansas last year and South Carolina in 2022, which will always haunt us. And then I'll
I went to
also
that for the fans to know I was there. If anybody else was, we need a support group for it. That was brutal.
it was
Sorry.
absolute no, you're 100% right. It's absolutely it was brutal for the whole fan base. And we all know it, and it's bad to bring up those memories. I would even throw in 2023 Missouri. Like I think we probably
Oof. Yeah,
probably
we
should
got
have won that game. We got throttled. We probably should have won that game. I think we were more talented. We just didn't show up that week. So yes, there's been these baffling road losses under Heupel, and so if he can get over that hump, I will say I think it's the easiest road slate that we've had as far as talent discrepancy between teams in a while, right? Like I believe Seven, and again, you'll have to help me with your name. It's maybe Steven. I'm not exactly sure how to say it in
Sven,
Dakota.
probably
Yeah, Sven.
Sven.
Yeah, Sven. Sven in the chat's bringing up Mississippi State, and listen, we did beat Mississippi State last year, but again, it's these road like Arkansas. We were 14-point
Yeah.
favorites in that game, Dakota. Like I remember covering the game. It's like it. It just comes out of nowhere, man. We were 20, I think we were 20-point favorites against Carolina in 2022. Like it just
Oh yeah.
comes out of nowhere. It's like you just never know when it's going to happen. So you have like we can't just assume he's going to take care of these things. But if he does, like you said, it's very possible the Vols are back in the playoffs cuz I do think it's I won't say likely. I'm about 50-50 of whether we can win one of those big 3 games. Like it's going to be big question marks. And by the time the Syracuse game happens, and especially by the time the Georgia game happens in week 4, we'll know so much more about this football team, man. And that's when
Oh
we'll
yeah.
have a really good sense. But just real quick, Dakota, before I get your thoughts on all that, I'm going to just quickly catch up on the chat here as best I can. We have Ty predicting 9-3. I think 9-3 is very realistic. I'll just shut out right now. Our win total placed by we're set by Vegas on the year is 8.5. So 9-3 is basically just you saying we're going over 8.5, which is again Vegas. Vegas. There is absolutely no bias in it whatsoever, right? It is simply them setting the line what they think Tennessee's win total is going to be on the year, and I think 9-3 or 8-4. Again, it's one game over or under that line. It's very realistic predictions from the chat here, and that's honestly most of the chat here, right? We're thinking 8-4, 9-3. Also, Daniel in the chat saying college football 26 is trash. I can't argue with that. But yeah, Dakota, what do you think on all that and the predictions that we're getting here from the chat?
Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned early in that was the Oklahoma piece that I think people in chat mentioned because they did get John Mateer from
Yes.
State, who like led the country in rushing last year at quarterback. That is a massive upgrade over Jackson Arnold and Hawkins. So Oklahoma will probably be a better team this year. We had that game handled until we kind of let it slip a little bit and made it closer than it should have been on the road, which to be honest has probably been one of the most impressive games by Heupel, was going into Oklahoma and kind of just smacking them until we let it look close at the end because the offense kind of got complacent, which was on him. Yeah, definitely not overlooking that game. It's just, historically, just like Alabama and everybody, like we kind of have this knack. Like if it's not Alabama, Georgia, and even, Florida now lately, we beat at home consistently. Like we win those games. So it's easier to kind of pencil that in as a win. But definitely one that'll be one of our tougher games. The Mississippi State game, I don't like, just like last year, Mississippi State's worse for the record. They are worse than what Arkansas was last year for sure. But I think a lot of fans that probably didn't buy into the idea Heupel lost those probably did not worry about that game much on the schedule. And then boom, it hit like a freight truck. We couldn't celebrate Vandy beating Alabama that week very much because we had to deal with our own embarrassing loss. So Mississippi State is still concerning to me just because, and honestly, Ty's prediction would be the most heartbreaking as well. Can you imagine if we go 9-3 and we beat 2 out of Georgia, Florida, Bama. We pull out those wins, and then we lose to like Mississippi State on the road, and that's why we don't make the playoff. It would be excruciating, but also not that surprising, to be honest. So I think, yeah, I'm the pessimist in me a little bit is the type to say like I don't want to bet on something until you show me it can happen, and that's kind of where I'm at with Heupel this season. It's like show me you can win on the road in big games and show me that you don't lose when you shouldn't. Because the great elite coaches in college football never do that. Kirby and Nick Saban and even Dabo, like they don't lose those. Dabo maybe a little bit more, but you don't lose those games. And if you do, it's not often. But it's an every season thing right now for us. So my thing for Heupel this season is we make the playoffs if he proves he can do those two things.
Yeah, all really good points. I am going to quickly catch up on the chat a little bit. Wild Turkey shouting out the LSU win on the road. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite games from 2022 is beating LSU in Death Valley. Because, dude, when I grew up, one of the first things I learned about college football was, the big bad Death Valley. and then we went in there and absolutely whipped them. And literally my favorite clip maybe ever, like in the history of the planet, is Vols fans after the 2022 LSU victory singing Rocky Top and Death Valley, just because of what that means and kind of the turning point in the program a little bit. So that's a great point, Wild Turkey. The thing is, it's usually just one bad road loss a year, which is always it's always critical. That's the problem. It's like it's always okay. South Carolina prevents us from making the 4-team playoff, and then Arkansas prevented us. Remember, if we beat Arkansas last year, we would have been in the SEC championship game and would have had a chance to play for a top 4 seed. It's like it's Heupel has big road wins. 2022 LSU,
Yeah.
last year against Oklahoma. He has them under his belt. It's usually just one that we're a big favorite in. Like there's a talent gap. There was a talent gap between 2024 Tennessee versus 2024 Arkansas. It just was. Like if you play that game 100 times, it probably only go Arkansas's way like 20 times out of that 100 game sample. So point being, it's usually just one crippling, baffling road loss per season. That's the issue. And you're right, Dakota. It could be the reason we don't make the playoffs this year. And which would be absolutely devastating if you win one of Bama, Florida, or Georgia, and then you drop Mississippi State, and then that's the reason you don't make it. That would suck. That would suck. To
Yeah.
put it
It,
mildly.
it would it would be brutal, and it would be the very Tennessee thing to do. Unfortunately, as we all know, it would just feel very on brand lately. But Wild Turkey brings a very good point. Like, and, specify in terms of winning big road games, he has done that. I would say, and it's beyond a Heupel problem, is more so beating Georgia, Florida, and Alabama on the road, because that is something we just have not done in over a decade for all of them. So yeah, or since 2016, so close to it. But those are the three where it's like you have to prove you can do that. And to be honest, if you're going to be the long-term coach and be able to bring success to this program consistently, you have to learn how to win there. Like it's
Yes,
just part of the job is being able to
part
go
of
into
it.
Tuscaloosa and Gainesville
It's part of it,
and
man.
and Athens and win. So we'll see. The work's cut out for him this year, and with a lot of the QB questions and stuff, like it'll be very interesting to see how things play out. And I think the schedule's also different this year, which is worth noting. We played Georgia much earlier and Florida much later, so it's going to be a different feel. And to be honest, could go our favor because in terms of talking playoff, right? Like we talked about this a lot last year. When you lose matters a lot. And if you reordered with us, Ole Miss, and with Alabama, like reordering when those losses happen determines where you land. So like
Mm-hmm.
Florida being at the end of the
Very
year
good
makes it
point.
tough. But like if we do lose to Georgia early on and then we beat, that gives us time to recover from that loss. Whereas if it was at the end of the year and we lost, so that's something that does matter. And that makes that Florida game all the more important, especially what our record is
So
going into
late.
that game specifically. It is probably the season deciding game at the end of the day.
That's a golly. That means my heart will be beating through
Yeah.
my chest. That's a fantastic point, Dakota, because we've just as general college football fans, we've made that point in the past with picking playoff teams and seeds. When you lose matters, dude. When you lose matters, and should it matter? Part of me says yes because it's like you want the best. The best teams are playing their best ball later in the year. So going down to, I mean, I listen. The Bama rivalry is our biggest rivalry. Blake taught me that a long time
Yep.
ago. But when I grew up, it was Florida. I hate Florida, dude. I can't stand Florida. We welcome Florida fans in the chat if you want to stop by. But I hate Florida, dude. I just do, and I want to beat them down so bad. So if they're the reason we got into the playoffs, that would be absolutely incredible.